Earlier this year, I took a dive into the library of the Sega CD, a bad idea of a console chock full of bad idea FMV games. FMV meaning the games were loaded with cutscenes at best and trying to be harebrained interactive movies at worst. Well, I enjoyed that chill video and I downloaded more Sega CD games onto my emulator, so why not dig further into the library of this baffling mistake? Schnick just said that we have to start with the game that he loaded up for me in the first place, The Terminator. This is your good old classic side-scrolling shooter. One button to shoot, one button for grenades, one button to jump, and you can shoot at diagonal angles. The levels are comprehensible and intuitive to navigate. The main level graphics are crisp and atmospheric, and of course the game is known for its kick-ass soundtrack. Levels 2 and 3 sound like something out of Black Sabbath or Metallica, and level 4's soundtrack starts out dark and has a build-up of energy to feel triumphant. But then level 7 edits lines from the movie into a weird techno rap track.
It's just him and me and me.
And level 8, the police station with the Terminator stalking you like a proto Mr. X, it's like peppy arcade Ninja Turtles music. The controls are a little stiff, but you quickly pick up tricks to get around them. Duck to shoot horizontally on stairs, duck to control the grenade's arc, and you find ways to hit enemies while staying out of their line of fire. You start out in the future fighting Terminators and you think the whole game's gonna be the future war, but at the end of level 4 you go back to the present and start massacring random street hoods. Did we switch over to a Punisher game? What the hell? And of course the 1984 Steel Foundry is guarded by automated turrets and robots. Why wouldn't it be? The game's good, but it still has some sucky parts. Robots spawn abruptly and kill you by touch. The nightclub has tons of hazards that knock you around. You fight a helicopter that one-shots you for not guessing how the fight works right away. And the last level is a nightmare of finicky jumps over lava. You get no continues, by the way. I barely got to level 10 without needing save states, but I sure as shit needed them afterward. It is cool that your gun upgrades as the game goes on, with level 9 giving you Dragon's Breath rounds. Remind me why we can't just shoot the Terminator again? You actually have to abandon Sarah at the end of the game to grab a hidden grenade launcher to blow the Terminator in half so Sarah can crush it, and the game ends, conveniently leaving out the part where Reese dies. Oh well, much like the pixelated gibberish FMV cutscenes between levels that just play music with no proper audio, the details aren't important. But enough of the good games, you're here for bullshit, and it don't get much more bullshit than Brutal Paws of Fury. This is a fighting game starring an assortment of furries who are invited to a martial arts tournament. It's known for two things, sucking shit and featuring one of the great mothers of furry icons. I present to you Foxy Roxy, a big booba fox woman in a sports bra and yoga shorts with a penchant for stretches where she spreads her legs apart as far as possible. Well, of course she's hot. She's wearing the best color. Blue. The artwork barely even looks consistent, almost like Roxy is way more detailed than the other fighters. Can't imagine why. The combat is atrocious. All three buttons on the controller do the same thing, only C launches attacks much more slowly than usual for what seems to be no payoff. I've tried loads of button combos, all Roxy can do is kick. Meanwhile, the AI blocks most of my hits, their attack animations have zero windup so you can't avoid damage, and you start with no special moves. He starts with speed dashes and spin kicks that rip through your blocks. You're basically thrown in with over half your mechanics disabled to fight computers at full strength. All I can do is count on range and hope for the best. Oh, and the game records playbacks of your fights in case you want to watch yourself get stomped again. I've heard the game also has a fighter training function where you save passwords to gradually unlock special moves, but the game is so broken that who gives a shit? Why does this even need to be on the Sega CD? Well, it has a Microsoft Paint opening cutscene rife with screen tearing, a primitive CG flyby of the bad guy's island, and exactly one introductory cutscene for one of the fighters because animation is just hard. I'm kinda shocked the one cutscene they bothered with isn't Roxy in a yoga studio, but I suppose the gooning has to stop somewhere. Racing Aces. This is a flying game where, oh sweet merciful God, what is happening? You know your flying game is solid when the first thing a player does is crash. The goal, I think, is to fly your plane through a series of checkpoint gates. I guess you can shoot targets and the other racers, but it looks like asswipe and the controls are horrible. Trying to steer left and right doesn't actually turn left or right. It adjusts how quickly you start turning left or right permanently. And it's so insanely sensitive that you just end up wildly juking and swerving like you're drunk. You have to pause the game if you want any kind of map for a clue of where the hell you're supposed to go. And the graphics, just look at it! Every kind of terrain is a single unbroken color, and the draw distance is terrible. The visuals are so confusing, it's genuinely difficult to tell how close you are to the ground to avoid crashing. Am I the only one who thinks that Star Fox looked better without needing a crappy CD drive to boost its performance? I know this is a full 360-degree flight game instead of being on rails, but given how sharp the controls and navigation are, maybe some rails would have helped. But there are 3 playable planes and 1 is named Fucker, so feels like they knew this was garbage. Enough of the actual games. I need FMV slop in my veins. Let's play some Mega Race. This one's set in a cyberpunk city where people fight criminals in a reality show called The Running Man. I mean, Mega Race. Except the competition is inside virtual reality, so I think that nobody dies? Is that what we're going with? You have to sit on your ass for 8 minutes while Christian Eriksen tries to explain it while mugging like a fiend.
Not a problem. You know why? Because it ain't real. It's virtual television. Reality's white nightmare.
Yeah, this bug-eyed, withered, hobgoblin-looking dude, who's pretty much a professional extra in movies, is the celebrity guest host. Ouch. The actual game is a limited arcade driving stage where you have to kill about 3 to 5 other drivers before the 3 laps end. How do you kill the other racers? Well, that's the problem. You can ram the enemies, but it deals pathetic damage, and you have to fiddle with your speed nonstop, and you are on a very unforgiving clock. You'd rather kill the enemies with your gun, but your gun's got about 1 foot of range and limited ammo. And the cherry on top of relying on a gun with no range is that if you accidentally touch the back of an enemy, it's pretty much an instant death. So you have to ram your guns up people's asses without actually touching them. Somehow. I've read the game has missile launchers and shields that you can pick up in certain cars, but I haven't seen a single drop of either item yet. And speaking of items, they are the one great hurdle that will make your life suck, no matter how much you practice the shittin' game. The tracks are filled with patches that you can barely see and come up too quickly to react to, and these patches are items. Some items are good, like a speed boost. Most items are bad. Some tracks are saturated with patches that silently siphon all your weapon energy to where your gun is useless and the game's virtually unplayable. The good items are colored differently from bad ones, but the colors change on every track. The item layout will always throw you for a loop, and for one last twist of the knife, you get 1 life and no continues. If the items catch you off guard once, you start the whole game over. You sit through 6 loading screens even if you skip over the host not being funny, and then you start over. Like, at its best, the game is repetitive and annoying, but throw in constant beginner's traps and getting sent back to start, you can kiss my ass. But please don't. You are freaky looking.
Ready for a marvel of virtual reality.
Bug Blasters The Exterminators. This game was actually canceled when the Sega CD was discontinued in 1995. It didn't see the light of day until 5 years later when a homebrew company picked it up for distribution. That might explain why it looks even more pixelated and incomprehensible than your average FMV game. This one follows a group of specialized exterminators who hunt mutant bugs using distinct jumpsuits, big-ass techie backpacks, laser guns, tracking devices, a specialized car, they get slimed by baddies, and they have a theme song that chants Bug Blasters! I think we cracked the mystery on why this was never released. Lawsuits would have flown with the Ghostbusters! Original concept, my ass! Whatever toxic waste has made giant intelligent bugs, they've taken over City Hall. The Bug Blasters are sent to stop them, and you play as their new recruit and get a load of your character's name.
And here's the rookie of the team, Hugh the player.
Hugh the player. That is the best pun I've heard in years. The game plays a lot like Midnight Raiders from our first roundup. A video plays and you have to try and shoot an erratically juking target superimposed over the footage before time runs out. And then it cuts to footage of a bug exploding, so the flow of gameplay is complete shit. Except unlike the game's more dickish brethren, you seem to have unlimited ammo, the clips are pretty long, and there are multiple enemies, giving you good odds of hitting something by accident. Honestly, it's one of the better FMV movie shooters I've seen on a console, just for being lenient. There are signs the game was never finished, though. For one, the audio quality is all over the place.
Ghostbusters, ma'am. You got a problem? We're here to solve it. I have a feeling this is going to be nasty.
Well, how bad?
Huh? Them stink bugs can cover you in a matter of seconds.
For two, there are two turret sections where you just play the same sequence over and over again until you've shot enough total bugs. And for three, some sequences are incredibly short or don't actually punish you for missing. The only other thing the game has going for it is a story of pure cringe. The only character with any focus is the token black guy who's the butt of all the jokes. He screams bug-eyed and stuff, has to be saved multiple times, and has tons of fat jokes made at his expense. He stops in the middle of the beehive level to buy honey buns because there's a mutant candy vendor in the middle of a war zone. Yet they keep establishing that some of the bugs are innocent civilians, and you nuke them all anyway. And you can tell they knew that they weren't funny because they start editing wacky sound effects into everything. This game was made by Sony ImageSoft, by the way. With Sony working on their own CD game apparatus at the time, I can only assume this was corporate sabotage. Fahrenheit. This is an FMV firefighter game where you run through burning buildings looking for a person to rescue before time runs out, with bonuses defined like lost valuables or hazards to be defused. Basically, you come to an intersection, you push a direction to explore, and unlike Wirehead, you don't die instantly for going the wrong way. Except for that one time I accidentally exited the building, ran into my boss, and died instantly for going the wrong way. The game's built on exploration of a continual map where you need to keep track of where you've already been, and that's cool until the second level, which is a hotel where every goddamn hallway and room looks exactly the same. They copy-paste footage like crazy. There are 0 navigational cues to let you know where you are or where you've been. You find the exact same room in a dozen different locations. 95% of the rooms you check don't do dick! And then you find the stairwell, and oh good, there are 2 identical floors you need to fully explore on a strict time limit. I know the first floor has some explosive material that you can find for extra time, and that is as far as I got. It doesn't help my motivation at the first level you're trying to find some guy's missing daughter who's lost in the house, but then in the second you're after a crazy bag lady who won't leave without her damn birds. Big whoop. I kind of feel bad the game is no good because I do not want to know what they had to do to get this footage. The hotel looks like it's a bunch of relatively controlled sets, but the first level looks like an actual burning house. Filming probably involved sending actual firefighters to traipse over burning sets from multiple directions while dragging along a poor cameraman who's desperately trying to get comprehensible footage in between trying not to die. It's one of the more effective uses of the FMV movie game format that I've seen. If only they'd designed an actual game around it. The San Diego Zoo presents The Animals. I was hoping for an edutainment game with a bunch of FMVs about cool animals, but it's not. You're taken to a map to stumble around selecting different areas and exhibits inside the zoo, and each one is just a set of pixelated photographs and reading material. It's like they tried to digitize a book. Poorly! The interface has you dragging around a slow and awkward cursor, which just makes it frustrating to explore, and the zoo map ends up being pointless anyway because guess what? This thing wants to be an encyclopedia so badly that it has an index and a search button. But at least the index is where you can find all the FMV sequences. Yeah, that 5 seconds of an animal walking was worth tracking down. And several of the videos just end with a freeze frame like this is gonna turn into a creepypasta or something. Probably the best part of the game is the section marked stories, where you get a narrated slideshow actually digging into a topic in depth. Everything else is too limited by the Sega CD. Look at this. If I didn't tell you that this story was about a baby gorilla, you'd think this was a fucked up horror game about some burnt up demon baby. And check it out. Don't these kids look thrilled to be part of this game? Here's the thing. I grew up with the knowledge adventure games. They were glorified encyclopedias too, but they also had mini games to get kids in the door and encourage them to explore the topics. They were actual games on top of being vastly more in-depth and intuitive informational resources. Plus 3D Body Adventure had a CG naked chick. I mean, come on. I don't know what this game's hook is meant to be unless you want a really expensive nature sound tape. Revenge of the Ninja. This is basically an anime version of Dragon's Lair. You follow a ditzy ninja with no pants as he sneaks around a castle dodging hazards and enemies with quick time events. Sometimes you have to hit a button to attack an enemy, and prompts for the attack button feel way more strict than prompts for the directional pad. On the upside, the controls feel more responsive than any time that I've tried playing Dragon's Lair, and the death animations can get gnarly for what was sure to be a G rating. Ooh. I'm not sure what else to say about it though, other than even for as bad as I am at the game, I still got far enough to notice recycled animations. I don't even know why your ninja broke into this stupid castle with Medusa and animatronic Godzilla and, I don't know, somebody throw out a transformer that this dude looks like. I don't know why he's here, I don't know what he's revenging for, and I don't know why he came without pants! Cobra Command. This one's a rail shooter where you control a helicopter pilot blowing up enemies, only this one doesn't even bother with a storyline or a premise. You just shoot things and die a lot. The scrolling FMV is a hand-drawn animation flying through an environment that would be impressive, but it's so compressed, pixelated, and runs on such a terrible frame rate, it is genuinely difficult to follow what's going on. Miss one turn or enemy, and you die instantly. And it took several minutes of crashing, burning, and not knowing why before I figured out how the turns work. It's not like Rubble Assault where you just move your cursor to the side of the screen. You have to keep holding that direction on the control pad until the turn is complete, which just seems needlessly picky. Level 1 is flying through New York City, fighting completely anonymous enemies, and then level 2, you're in a canyon. In case you couldn't tell, they have a voice telling you that you're in a canyon.
We're in the canyon now. Drive them out.
But level 2 opens just blitzing you with one helicopter after another with only split seconds to react. And every time you die, you start the level over. It looks like shit, I have no context for why I'm here, and it's the same developer as Revenge of the Ninja. I don't need this crap. Ground Zero, Texas. More FMV goodness from our friends at Digital Pictures. The plot to this game is that a small town in Texas is being invaded by body snatcher aliens, and you're the last hope of stopping the invasion before Washington drops the nukes.
We don't get this situation contained. HQ has a B-2 in the air with a TAC nuke. They're ready to drop it.
Dude, just nuke them. It's Texas. I doubt they'll be missed. You repel this alien invasion by switching between 4 cameras with mounted turrets to shoot aliens as they come for you. And yes, the filmmaking and editing are so sloppy that it constantly looks like your victim got shot in a completely different location. Guess I'm firing teleportation beams. A lot of the enemies do not give you much time to shoot, but you can't just have twitch reflexes because civilians will walk through the screen and shooting the innocents 3 times is an instant fail.
I don't want the likes of you watching my back! The chopper's waiting! You're done!
So you need to wait for enemies to reveal themselves, which means giving them more time to hit you, which means dying more often. You do have shields, but the shields utterly block your view of who you're shooting. Not entirely sure what that's supposed to accomplish. What really sucks, though, are the cutscenes. Often you'll switch to a camera and a long-ass video of random street business will play, and at the end of that sequence you have to shoot an enemy. But often other areas will come under attack during the cutscenes. Look at this, I have to stay on camera 1 and let the video play out or I'll take damage, but while I'm stuck here, camera 3 is getting its ass kicked. The damage is unavoidable. But I think I have an explanation for why the game is so terrible.
Glad you're online. My name's Breen. Been undercover here for over a week. What a dump.
Breen? As in Neil Breen?
I will eliminate all of the people like you that have ruined this planet.
Yep, that explains a lot. This game goes on for a small eternity, just shooting enemies on dull, static backgrounds with no end in sight. It's so mind-numbingly repetitive that you want to scream. I eventually cleared the first level, but I have no idea how. I just know it took 17 minutes, and I killed almost 70 enemies. The big angry guy who hired you goes looking for the alien base, so I shoot some aliens, I get prompted to enter a password, and I blow up.
Totally incompetent, you know what this means?
Oh, I know why I just died. Just get a load of this. Near as I can tell, to pass level 2, you need 4 chunks of a password, and those codes are earned by passing certain specific and unmarked cutscenes that pop up at pure random in level 1. So if you don't watch and then pass every last video sequence in the first level, you lose. An hour of practice, and I had only found 1 chunk of the code. So guess what? I have to keep replaying level 1 until I find all 4 randomized parts to this damn code. This game will not end. It will never end. The game was even ported to modern consoles to make sure it never ends. This is purgatory. You're down here forever. Supreme Warrior. Hey, you know how Prize Fighter, one of the launch titles for the Sega CD, was a complete piece of crap fighting game that didn't work worth a shit? Yeah, what if we took that game, made it about Kung Fu, and made it even less responsive? That's Supreme Warrior. You play as a fighter who comes to an Asian village being menaced by some lightning dude named Fang 2, as well as his minions of Earth, Wind, and Fire. No, I'm not joking. Dumbass is looking for the other half of his stupid mask so he can conquer the world and turn it into Boogie Wonderland. The local master is too old and his apprentice is injured, so it falls to you, a rando who just wandered into town, to wanna be the guy and fight his army single-handed. You get sent into an FMV of a martial artist beating the shitballs out of you, and you use the directional pad and buttons to throw punches, kicks, and blocks. It doesn't matter the way you move. None of your hits do anything because you're fighting a pre-recorded video that only reacts to one specific input at a specific time. Even blocking doesn't seem to do anything. Prize Fighter at least had a system of survival with optional button prompts to tell you how to play. Supreme Warrior only seems to show a fraction of the inputs, all too small to make out and popping up too quickly to react. It just never fails that opponents want to be with you and just phase through a hurricane of hits to punch you in the head. And it gets even better. If you actually manage to finish a stage, you unlock special attacks, which are performed by pressing start to switch what all the buttons do. So not only can you not pause, which that's the way of the world, but there are 2 sets of crappy controls that you have to switch between. The game has 3 little cutscenes trying to explain how the combat works if you keep your head to the sky. punch at close range, kick at long range, and pay attention to where your opponent's open to aim attacks. Except that's complete bullshit, because often your opponent has their entire body open and nothing works anyway. Plus the tutorials don't explain how to block, which would be the shining star of advice, since the enemies get about 6 times the attacks as you do. The only good part of the game is the opening cutscene of martial arts battles through a small town. Digital Pictures made this game in cooperation with the Shaw Brothers, who are the name for schlocky Japanese cult films. So at least the cutscenes look cool, but after the love has gone, you're just left with a broken game, and I've had enough. More Earth, Wind, and Fire references. Jurassic Park. This is a point-and-click adventure game where you play as a guy who's sent to Jurassic Park to save 7 dinosaur eggs, but you get marooned on the island with 12 hours to complete your mission. I love the presentation with pixel art vistas of the island, 360-degree areas to turn, dynamic pixel art dinosaurs, charming primitive 3D models for the visitor center, and the game uses minimal music with ambient nature sounds to get you immersed into the environment. I love how you come across the damaged T-Rex pen exactly as one comes by, as the game's way of going, yep, you're going in there later. The atmosphere is great. It just took me ages to figure out what to do. Everywhere I go, it feels like I'm missing items. I can't figure out what to do with half the items I do have. It took me an hour of stumbling through the game before I realized there's a gun at the crash site. And sometimes even when I do solve a puzzle, I can't figure out what it accomplished. There's a part in the Triceratops area where you can grab a tree branch and give it to a couple to snack on, which gives you access to a box. What does the box do? I don't know. I can't interact with the blasted thing. The game does give you hints on how to get past each dinosaur with these kiosks explaining how they work, plus video calls from your mission control will tell you where certain items are hidden, but it's general game navigation that's the problem. Things aren't marked as interactive hotspots unless you already have the item that operates them. So your brain writes off key items because they did nothing the first time you saw them. And there are a lot of ways for the dinosaurs to kill you, which sends you back to what appears to be the one save point in the visitor center. It's like Five Nights at Freddy's security breach all over again. And yes, there is a real-time timer of 12 hours ticking down the entire game, but crossing between different chunks of the map uses up 10 minutes at a time to where improper navigation can completely screw you. This place is a theme park and there aren't any maps. I feel like a lot of the game's problems could have been solved by not having a silent protagonist. Have your character speak up with hints, nudging you in the right direction, or letting you know to come back later. Just something to help you out. Despite my issues, I managed to find 3 of the dinosaur eggs on my own, but I couldn't figure out where to put them. I know there's an incubator to store the eggs, I need a headlight to get through the raptors, I need a CD for the brachiosaurs, there's a weird puzzle in the Triceratops pen, and the T-Rex pen is empty. It's all dead ends. I eventually looked up a walkthrough, and most of my problems boiled down to this. This tiny blue square is a game-critical item that opens an office with the incubator and a boatload of items. One minuscule missed detail derails the entire game. Next thing the walkthrough says is to solve this puzzle by honking the Jeep's horn multiple times so the Triceratops doesn't gore you. So that puzzle's going unsolved. Pity. I was kind of into this game. Heart of the Alien, Out of This World Parts 1 and 2. This one looks to be a double pack of 2 PC games. We'll do Out of This World first. The game begins with a moody but very basic animated cutscene of a scientist running a particle accelerator when it's struck by lightning, sending him to an alien planet where, and I'm dead. If you don't swim immediately, alien tentacles kill you. So you reach the shore and begin exploring the alien landscape, and I'm dead. These worms kill you in one hit. Tiny worms are your first grave danger. But you kill the worms and you keep going until, and I'm dead. A big black lion thing appears and chases you, and if you didn't realize that the worms eventually stop spawning and kill them all, odds are you're going to die again. You get rescued by the intelligent life on the planet with this hilariously done with life blank expression. but they enslave you to work in the mines. Luckily, you manage to escape your cage, and I'm dead. Turns out you can pick up items as I crouch and get a laser pistol to fight back, and I'm dead. This is a puzzle game with a really remedial interface where you just keep dying over and over again. And I got fed up trying to figure out how to escape the prison when you have to shoot a guy with an everything-proof shield. What the actual hell? Is Heart of the Alien any better? We walk to the left, and I'm dead. We walk to the right, and I'm dead. I think we're done here. RDF Global Conflict. This is a tank driving game. You're dropped into an open map, you drive around, and you shoot enemies. Simple, right? Except there's ages of dead air driving in between every single enemy that you actually get to shoot. To get out of just the first level, I think there are over a dozen enemies to take down, all spread across the map, so it takes entire minutes of driving to every individual foe before you get any combat. People thought Jurassic Park was boring? You don't even know from boring. Why is the map so humongous? Look at this. If I hadn't bothered to pause the game to check for a map in the first place, I would have just wandered into endless, empty void for all eternity. And of course the combat sucks, because despite you driving what's hyped as an armor-busting super tank, everything takes multiple shots to kill. Plus you find helicopters and other tanks that can rip you to shreds and make you start the boredom triathlon all over again. The only reason I even brought this game up is the lengthy FMVs when you boot up the game or start levels. They look like shit from low resolution and high pixelization, but they've got some of the most ridiculous overacting I've seen in one of these games.
Now it's my turn. Nice try. Lock, loading, eat that punch. Abort the mission! Don't shoot the supply trucks!
Now can I have the keys to the tank on Saturday night?
I don't care what you think. You need to start caring about what I think.
How do cutscenes this silly make it into a game this boring? Alright, who wants to play some space shooters? Still feed! Ooh, that's the good shit. Primitive CG polygon footage of a starfighter deploying out into space, and then you start the game and you launch again. I guess the first one was for practice. This is a scrolling vertical shooter where you're armed with a machine gun and nothing else. Nothing dies in one hit, and the enemies and their shots all ring out and zip around faster than you can move, so you just get your ass handed to you until you die enough to memorize the level. And to add insult to injury, running out of health doesn't mean that you die. First you run out of shield, then your engines get gimped, then your weapons get weaker, and then you die. Because, you know, making your ship suck worse just guarantees that you'll make a comeback. There's a button for an option weapon, but as of level 2, I still don't have one. Why do I keep running into games that withhold basic mechanics? Oh, and the only items are tiny health boosts and pointless score pickups, so don't expect any help. About the only thing I like is the presentation, to where cutscenes kinda play in the background of your fleet getting attacked at an asteroid field, all in the polygonal graphics to match the actual gameplay, but the background action can make it tough to figure out what's decoration and what's trying to kill you. Even some of the enemies look like pickups. It's like they decided they needed to stand out from other 2D shooters by making everything suck. AX-101. This game opens with an incredibly schlocky cutscene of a T-1000 alien saying that Earth's about to be invaded by someone. Every time they try to explain who's attacking, it's drowned out.
People of Earth, the universe is in grave danger. Within 24 hours, the Galaxy Earth Federation will be attacked by the evil Gurzon Mechaloids.
4 pilots are sent into an alien planet to retrieve a promised ultimate weapon, the AX-101, and these 4 pilots are just blank slates in completely interchangeable spacesuits. You can only distinguish them by the colors of their shoulder pads. It's like Star Fox without the character design. This is a rail shooter where you move your cursor around shooting down targets, and I have to say, I'm really impressed by the game's visual design. Every level is a fully rendered FMV with enemies that exactly match the art style to where it actually looks like you're interacting with the video, flying through space battles and alien planetscapes. This game looks friggin' awesome! My only complaint was that the cursor and your shots are a little slow and tedious, but about 12 minutes in you get to the supposed galaxy-saving superweapon and it's just a jet with faster weapons. Touché. And what about your wingman? Well, there's Bob, who dies not 10 minutes in, and nobody cares.
Damn, they got Bob.
And there's the girl one.
If there's one thing I'm good at, it's escaping from the enemy.
Weird way of saying that you're good at running away from stuff. And then there's... I didn't even catch the dude's name. The other red shirt who sacrifices himself so you can take down a mothership that I don't even think you ever see explode. I'm starting to think we got scammed on these so-called ultimate weapons. The game, sadly, is the embodiment of the star that burns brightest, burns fastest. Within half an hour, you're charging the alien homeworld, whereupon the game just piles on missiles and mines that deal massive damage, and you don't get any extra lives or continues. So yeah, this thing's built to be short one way or another. But we'll always remember you and your generic forgettable name and your generic forgettable characters. What was I playing again? Starblade. It's a first-person rail shooter like the Star Wars Trilogy arcade. The wireframe graphics are a little odd given the capabilities of the Sega CD, but it's not bad. Except every time you get shot, the screen strobes white like the game's actively trying to give you a seizure. It's like some Freddy Krueger game where every time you get shot, the game tries to kill you for real. Nova Storm. This one's actually a sequel to one we've already covered, Microcosm, because if you pay attention to the opening cutscene, it references the made-up star system and planets from the umpteen pages of useless backstory and Microcosm's instruction booklet. The plot to this one is that Skynet has risen and flying a starfighter to this one planet to blow up its data core will kill it before it takes over the system. So the game's another rail shooter where you blow up tons of enemy ships over scrolling FMVs of Mustafar. You have 3 weapons, a rapid fire, a charge shot, and a limited use screen clearing smart bomb that are all mapped to different buttons. The ships go down in 1 or 2 hits, you can get powers for destroying enough enemies, I think, I'm not sure what half the damn things do. And levels are freaking short with multiple rapid boss battles. It feels like they were mad that Microcosm didn't come close to living up to its hype as a new advent in gaming, so they made the sequel its exact opposite. Fast and furious to a fault, and cut down to practically 0 cutscenes. Hell, you remember how Microcosm opened with like 10 minutes of ungodly slow establishing shots that didn't have dick to do with the story? Well, here's how Nova Storm opens.
Governors of the Federated Worlds, we are in a crisis situation, threatening all planets in the Baitor system. In recent months, mysterious systems crashes have plagued all of our systems. Initially thought to be just software error, evidence now points to something else. The situation is critical. We don't know what the grid code wants, but its intentions are definitely hostile.
It's like they redubbed over fast-forwarded footage. It looks and sounds ridiculous. The game isn't that fun. Enemy shots flare at you way too fast to avoid, and the backgrounds just look discolored and ugly. Like this was a rushed porting job not designed for the Sega CD. I got up to a flaming bird boss that takes eons to kill, and then one-shots you for not killing it fast enough. Yep, that's enough for me, I think. Android Assault: The Revenge of Bariarm. This one opens with a cutscene explaining Earth's being invaded by some space colonies called Zeus, who have an army of flying robots. Yeah, not at all like Zeon from Gundam. Apparently the only one who can stop the war is a jet transformer called Bariarm via a side-scrolling shoot-'em-up. There are items to swap out or buff your weapons, and holding fire will charge a one-off super attack, and the weapons get ridiculous as they upgrade to fill the entire screen. The game has one-hit deaths, but you have a decent number of lives and continues to compensate. It's not a bad game. I just question why there's a button to adjust your speed when there's literally no reason to ever dip below the top speed. You know what might have been better than a speed button? A button to transform! The only way to turn into robot mode is to max out your strength upgrades, and the robot form doesn't even do anything. It lets you take 1 hit without dying. That's it! And it doubles the size of your character sprite to make you much easier to hit. So, what the hell? I don't know how many levels there are. Stage 5 just rolls up its sleeves and says, "You're going down, bitch," with a high-speed crash tunnel and a boss with constant 8-directional shots ringing out at random. This feels like a game that doesn't need the Sega CD to function, but I'm the dumbass who called the Game Boy Advance a 16-bit system, so clearly console specs are not my specialty. The Sega CD had plenty of games that were just regular releases like from any other console's library, games that it feels kind of unnecessary to talk about. Oh, what's this? Robo Aleste? Standard scrolling 2D shooter that just uses the CD capability for music? Yeah, that's nice. Next! The Sega CD also saw re-releases of games like Mortal Kombat and the Echo the Dolphin games, just with a few gratuitous FMVs tacked on so it'd seem like you were getting an upgrade. But I hopelessly suck at both Mortal Kombat and Echo the Dolphin, so don't expect any more in-depth comparisons to come from me. Mortal Kombat's port seems extra pointless because the added cutscene is just a pixelated advertisement that makes the game look like butt. But now I think I've covered most of the really cutscene-heavy games that interest me, though I'm saving some cult games so I won't be down to the dregs for a part 3. But before we sign off, there's one more game that my friends in mods Schnick and Alma have been insisting that I need to try. Wild Woody. Wild Woody is a side-scroller, a bad one. You play as an animated pencil that has to wander around random-ass locales trying to get to the exit, and even the first level, which is pirate-themed, has cannonballs incessantly raining from the sky, parrots dropping even more cannonballs, and pirates leaping out of barrels to lob knives at you. And your only attack move, near as I can tell, is to jump and then hold B to use Woody's eraser ass to destroy enemies beneath you. And therein lies the problem, because multiple times I tried to use the damn eraser attack and it didn't work. Like either the button fails or the detection is hot garbage. So not only is it difficult to avoid damage from the fast enemies and rampant stage hazards, but trying to attack enemies is probably just going to get you hit even more. And the first level ends with a boss fight against a giant skeleton, but enemy, floating backpack mouth things are constantly spawning to rip you to pieces. And by the time I figured out that trying to attack from the right set of platforms has horrid detection and leaves you open to more hits, I was almost dead anyway. You've probably asked yourself, why a pencil of all things for a player character? Well, Woody has the power to pick up sketches and then create whatever is in his sketchbook. The opening level seems to have 3 items that you can make. A kite that takes you upward, on the 1,000,000 to 1 chance that it doesn't take damage and disappear immediately. A boat to float across the water, if the game's in a good mood, and a mermaid who sits there jiggling her tits. Thanks, that's really helpful. And yes, I know there's an Easter egg to get her naked. But even if the sketches were more useful and didn't have a high chance of disintegrating immediately, drawing a sketch uses up parts of Woody's body. You can only make 2 sketches before needing to track down an item that grows his body back. And it doesn't look like you can carry sketches from one level to the next. So every central gimmick the game has is pretty much just pure crap. But that's not why Schnick and Alma said that I need to cover this game. They said I needed to witness the cutscenes. The story is that some ancient idol has split into different parts that travel to parallel worlds and cause chaos, and the one remaining good part of the totem creates Woody to reassemble the totem and... God! That's what Woody looks like in FMVs? He looks like a demonic incarnate spirit of child molesters. His teeth look like meth mouth would be an improvement. His jerky movement looks like he's coked out his eyes and just barely able to keep his body together. Yes, this is why Schnick and Alma insisted I must play this game, to introduce you all to your nightmares for the next week.
reality.